Russia. What's happening in India is that we're still growing at a healthy growth rate. There's always a confusion about numbers, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7, irrespective. Our growth rate is positive. Our fundamentals are strong. Our economic indicators look northwards, and that is because of the collaborative effort of everybody, including the farming communities, our tech companies, our policymakers, our bankers. We have all worked together to create an India today, which is far more aspirational. What innovation needs to do, what technologies need to do, must be dictated by the needs of our people. I think Sam made the point about technology companies working for rich entities or for richer people. And perhaps it's true superficially. But what matters to me most as a policymaker or someone who is involved in making of policy is how is technology or how is innovation or how is this creativity improving the lives of people, not just about how technology is more relevant to people who are able to access this. So our diversity, our complexities, our small issues that take on many facets of our lives, to deal with that successfully, to still have amongst even the BRICS countries, we know what's happening in Brazil and China. I won't speak about Russia. What's happening in India is that we are still growing at a healthy growth rate. Now there's always a confusion about numbers, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7, irrespective. Our growth rate is positive. Our fundamentals are strong, our economic indicators look northwards, and that is because of the collaborative effort of everybody, including the farming communities, our tech companies, our policymakers, our bankers. We have all worked together who is involved in making of policy. Is how is technology or how innovation or how is this creativity improving the lives of people, not just earning money. So earning money is one part of the problem. And I think we all need to make sure that collectively India is out of the debt trap and the farmers and so on and so forth. But is the life of an individual better off because of innovation and technology? And I'll give you 2 examples on what I thought was important when I was in government. We had this optical fiber laid out to 250,000 villages, which is the largest program after Australia, which has a broadband to the home program, the Indian program. And I think before we demitted office, about 60% of the work was done. Now you have these pipes, but what's lacking is really local content development. You have these apps that are being developed here in the Bay Area or somewhere else in Europe or America, but how pertinent and how relevant they are to the common folk in India who don't speak English. Who don't speak English, for example. So we really focused our minds on getting the local content, local languages to take on a life of themselves. Domain name registration. We had to fight with ICANN to get the Indian languages recognition. If a Indonesian language is recognized, Malay is recognized, but a lot of the Indian languages were not recognized. And because there was lack of content on the net, people were not developing applications that you could be using. How is a person living in rural Karnataka who speaks only Kannada part of the world? People have faith in the future of our country. People have faith in which direction we are headed. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I think some part of that credit has to be shared with politicians, whom I'm sure all of you don't like as much as I would have liked to like. But politics is a very strange phenomenon. I've been hearing since I've been here for the last 2 days about what's happening in the US, the Republican nominee and the Democrat nominee, and the amount of people who go out and vote. Don't forget in India, for example, the voting percentage is 75%, 80%. That means people feel involved in the electoral process. And that is a very, very heartening fact to remember, that people have faith in the future of our nation, what's happening in India. Technology, I think, has no limits. It will carry on. It will invent and it will deliver to the best of its capacities. Technology does not discriminate, but applications do. And that's where I think policymakers, corporate leaders, business leaders, and people who have a semblance of having a incremental growth with a trickle-down effect. I think all those stakeholders have to come together to be able to deliver next 50 years, which are far more level playing field available to all of us to deal with. I won't go on for very long, I'll stop now, but I just want to make last point about what's happening in this part, the western part. I'm coming to the west coast after about 15, 20 years. I haven't been here for a long time. And The way I see that America has remained a very important export destination for IT services. So two-thirds of our IT exports land in the US. There is a lot of discussion about how we must diversify the basket of our export portfolio, which is happening. But because of the strong relationships that we've had here in the western coast of the US and India, this relationship is going to get stronger and stronger. But it does not mean that the services that we provide are not going to get commoditized. The differential will decrease slowly. So therefore, Indian innovators, people who focus on India, people who have interest in India and Indian companies have to re-innovate. You've got to be ahead of the curve to make sure that we are providing new services so that this relationship remains strong and gets stronger as time goes by. I'll stop at that, but I'm happy to answer your questions, Mr. Shokhasikam.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that very inspiring message.
And started. I won't speak for very long, but I do want to make a point about internet connectivity, mobile telephony, and teledensity. Phone and smartphones. I mean, what is smart today becomes unsmart in a quarter. Phones are changing the lives of everybody, and I think mobile phones have done more to revolutionize life in India than perhaps even internet. The fact that a lot of people in India don't have good education, are not